Hey guys, welcome to another Trade Genius podcast. Bob and Phil here as always. Guys, so much has been talked about this BRICS conference that we just had, more nations joining the BRICS. And what does that mean? A lot of people think the dollar is going to be dethroned. A bunch of countries are going to be walking away from the dollar. Well, guess what? Reality is a lot different than what you hear on the internet. So we're going to talk about exactly what that means and why the dollar probably isn't going anywhere. Stay tuned.
Trade Genius.
Hey guys, I want to tell you something that we do that really will change the way in which you look at trading and also absolutely help you increase your profitability and how much money you make. It's the Trade Genius newsletter. We put the newsletter out Sunday night through Thursday night, and this really looks at the plumbing of the markets and helps prepare you for the next trading day and help you make money. And we give you a lot of information. We give you market statistics, we give you market levels, we give you the seasonality, what's happening with different sectors of the market, and we will help you identify whether the market's in a bear mode or a bull mode, or whether it's euphoric, whether it's despondent, and it just puts you in a position to be on the right side of the trade. So take advantage of our offer that we have below, and you'll love it. I mean, one trade that you make with this thing can pay for definitely a month, maybe even a year's worth of service. It's that powerful. Use promo code podcast for 15% off the retail price of newsletter. Thanks for listening.
All right, Bob. So last week we had a BRICS conference and more countries, I think Saudi Arabia included, joined. And so there's been, everywhere I look, it's like, oh, the dollar is going to be dethroned. The dollar is going to be dethroned. You know, what do you think?
Yeah, every one of those countries runs trade surplus with the United States.
Yep.
And in order for them to trade with us, they have to use dollars. Number one. Number two is that, when push comes to shove, Powell's blowing up the carry trade, and our debt is very attractively priced, and he's going to draw more money into the country, which is going to raise the value of the dollar. And thirdly, what people don't realize, and I know you're going to go through some other advantages, what people don't realize is America is having a manufacturing renaissance, and we're reshoring a lot of manufacturing. So our reliance on the rest of the world is starting to wane. And, with what I call the Five Eyes countries plus Israel and Mexico, that's a nice trading block to be part of. And you pretty much, other than a couple African countries for strategic metals, that group doesn't need anybody else. In fact, the world needs that group. If you want high technology, you're buying American, or Israeli products. You want food and energy, you're getting it from the United States. You want good solid manufacturing, you're getting it out of Mexico. So I always laugh when they say they're going to dethrone us. Like, what are they going to do? Not sell to us? Pretty funny, Phil.
Yeah, so then let's go look at the realities, right? So first slide here. Dollar usage in global payments in July rises to a record. So like you said, everything settles in dollars. Most have trade surpluses with us, right? And most countries, and I think that's what people lose sight of, is that most countries, if they want to deal with the world's largest economy, they're not going to be doling out another reserve currency. And so as such, we've got record usage in July. Here's that chart on the dollar usage, guys. I mean, look at it. White is dollar use for international payments. I mean, it's just skyrocketing, and it's been going up. And here's the funny thing about what the narratives that you hear on the internet regarding BRICS and dollar dethronement is that it's been doing the exact opposite of what you're hearing online. So it's kind of one of those things where if everyone's staring at something or everyone's talking about something, likely that is not the path that's going to be taken. It's kind of like this big head and shoulders pattern on the S&P 500. The entire Twitterverse has been looking at that. And sure enough, we were failing to break down, right? It's one of the most simplest rules you could ever probably implement in terms of how things will go in the financial markets. It's usually the thing that the least amount of people are looking at, which is the likely path forward. And we'll get into reasons why. But, Bob, what's interesting on this chart is euro in blue. So white is the dollar usage. It's going to, all-time highs here in the last, decade. Euro currency is tanking right now. And I know you mentioned something this morning about how the euro and its stability, that's really something that you need to keep an eye on.
Yeah, look, I mean, people worry about what's going to happen in the United States. Watch Europe first. That's the canary in the coal mine. We also discussed many, many times that, if Powell wanted to fix inflation, he didn't need to raise interest rates. He could have just killed the balance sheet. But they popped interest rates because they wanted to strengthen the dollar. They want to reliquify the pension funds, and it's also they're basically going after China economically. And so, if you look at the BRICS countries, ironically, the strongest BRICS country out there is Brazil. And Brazil is a corrupt Latin American, socialist, South American country. China is gone. I don't care what anybody tells you. Demographically, they can't feed themselves. They don't have enough energy for themselves. And the demographics are failing. And they don't know how to project power. And so, you just go through the list. India, they can't feed themselves. They can't energize themselves. Okay. And then other countries are just mocks nicks. United States, look at the United States. It's political for us. We can feed ourselves. We can energize ourselves. We have a stable population, and we have the most powerful Navy in the world, Air Force in the world, Space Force in the world. We don't even need an army, okay? And we can project power, and we can control all the sea lanes. So I don't worry about the United States dollar. It's the other countries that I think it's going to cause this grief, Phil. The dollar gets too strong, it's going to hurt our multinationals. If the other currencies get too weak, it'll push the world into a recession. But I think you have some other cool, future benefits of the dollar and the weaknesses of BRICS. Do you want to go through those?
Yeah, I mean, you touched on some basics there, but yeah, let's go through this real quick because I think it kind of wraps everything up for us here. And so, it's like, first you got to talk about the dollar and as far as how deeply entrenched it is, right? It's the world's reserve currency. Everybody knows that. It's been the reserve currency for 50 years after we took it away from Britain. It's used in over 80% of global trade and investment. You guys can see how strong that is in that previous chart where we're just going to new highs here in the last decade. And it gives the U.S. government a number of advantages, such as the ability to print money, although they printed too much, right? Normally, they've been able to print money without causing inflation, but that hasn't been the case because they overreacted to COVID. And then they'll also be able to borrow money at low interest rates, right? So that's when you have that power to do that, it makes you more entrenched and you're not really going anywhere. Still widely used for trade and investment around the world. Even though the BRICS, look, they're growing their economies, right? But they still have to rely on the US. This isn't something that's going to change overnight. The way the Twitter, if you read Twitter, you'd think this is going to change next month, right? But you would be dealing with the most chaotic financial regime change ever in the history of mankind if that were to happen. So, the US dollar is still seen as a safe and stable currency. And then, the US government has a number of tools at its disposal to maintain dollar dominance, right? The ability to control the global financial system, impose sanctions on other countries, and the ability to make the dollar the preferred currency for international lending, right? These are all things that are not going to change anytime soon. So those are all the pros for the dollar and basically the US government and why it's so entrenched. And these are things that are just not gonna, I don't care what you say, they're just not going to change overnight. These are things, and if they do start to change, it's going to be chaotic for the financial system. So then what's the problem here for the BRICS? Well, political instability, probably number one. Like you mentioned, Brazil and Russia have had their share of political instability in recent years. And so, this goes back to that old thing where we say, well, who's going to back up who, right? Who's going to, out of the BRICS, who's got who's back, right? And I don't think anybody can have anybody's back. You have economic inequality, which is really high in India and China, which can lead to social unrest. And also another reason why people would be hesitant to use those currencies as a reserve. And then you have currency volatility, which is the BRICS countries are very volatile. And if you're looking at the yuan, right, China would be the forefront if there was going to be an alternate reserve currency. They're currency manipulators, and they don't want to have a reserve currency because if you're a net exporter or you run a trade surplus, as they do with US is their number one most important customer. They don't want to have a currency that's the reserve. They want to be able to manipulate their currency. That's why every single night they're always messing around with a yuan peg. I don't know if you guys are aware of that. Every night, because they want their money to be in a position where it's advantageous to export and have America still consume goods that are made in China. So they don't want their currency going up in value. It would be very damaging to their economy. So food for thought, guys. And that's what I wanted to share, Bob.
Yeah, and here's the question you ask yourself. If there were no immigration controls or export controls anywhere in the world, it was totally wide open, where do you think money and people are going to flow? And that's the reserve currency.
Yep, I agree. All right, guys, well, let us know your thoughts. Do you think that we're correct on this take, or do you think, no, the dollar's days are numbered and BRICS really are going to take over? We'd love to hear your opinions on that. And as always, please hit like and subscribe and smash that notification bell, as that really helps the algorithm and our channel. And we will see you on tomorrow's video, guys. Take care.
Trade